Hello Year 5, Mr. Bristow here, and welcome to my turn to share some of your story with you. Cosmic, it's one giant leap for all boykind. So I'm starting us on the chapter, You Don't Get Extra Lives in Space. I could barely even finish my cosmic quencher. I went over to the Possibility building to look at the rocket. I thought it would make me feel better to see it, looking so solid with its extra oxygen tanks and its extra bulletproofing. Mr. Bean was there, looking up at it too. I said, "Mr. Bean, has anyone ever died on this?" "On this particular rocket?" "No. This is what you call an expendable launch vehicle. You're only supposed to use it once. A bit like one of those throwaway razors. You can't really know that it's expendable or that it'll work until you're already up there, and by then it's too late." The thought that they were going into space in a throwaway razor wasn't particularly reassuring. It got worse. "People do get killed on rockets," he went on. "Gus Grissom, he died when Apollo 1 caught on fire on the launch pad, along with Ed White and Roger Chaffee." "Oh, right. But that was a long time ago. This is a different kind of rocket. If you're looking for something more recent, well, I'm not exactly looking. I was just asking." The crew of the Columbia shuttle, they died, but on re-entry. There were 7 of them. The crew of the Shuttle Challenger, they died on takeoff. 7 of them too, all very young. I did say then, "Thanks. I think you've answered all my questions." But there was no stopping him. And then there was Soyuz 1. When the parachute didn't open, Vladimir Komarov, that was awful. He didn't have a chance. Everyone could hear him talking to his wife on the radio, talking about the kids, and honestly, that is more than enough information. Thank you. I began to walk away. Mr. Bean called after me. Going into space isn't like one of those video games. If you die, you don't get extra lives. That's when I decided I was going to go and drag Florida out of the crew quarters and take her home to safety. We could walk home to Bootle if we had to. Obviously, it would be better to go in a plane. So as I strode across the rocket tramway lines and the bridge over the fire pit, I was rehearsing this speech I was going to make to Dr. Drax about how it would be better for us and for everyone if we were just given an airfare. But as I got nearer, I could hear shouting and saw a Draxcom personnel vehicle screeching to the crew quarters. Dr. Drax was yelling, and Mr. Xanadu was yelling back at her and throwing his bags into the back of the car. As the car drove away, Dr. Drax turned to go back into the house. Then she saw me and looked really surprised. "Mr. Digby," she said. "How did you know?" "I suppose you guessed." "I should have guessed myself, of course." I didn't know what she was on about. "Mr. Xanadu," she said, "has totally betrayed me." It turned out Mr. Xanadu was cheerily taking all the photographs of the penultimate. He wasn't really interested in happy, smiling faces. He was taking photos of the flight simulator and the control panels. He'd sent the photographs to a toy company in Shanghai and asked them to build a full-size working replica of it for Hassan. Sadly for him, Dr. Drax also owned the Shanghai toy company. They told me everything. He even went to them with an idea of making dolls out of you to sell. He was going to call them the Astro Kids. Can you imagine? Where do people get their ideas? At least no harm has been done. Except to Mr. Xanadu. Of course. He will no longer be the responsible adult accompanying the children into space. That honour will go to the person who came second in the competition. Namely, you, Mr. Digby. Oh, give yourself a moment for the news to sink in. Somehow it seemed to take more than a moment. Somehow my brain wouldn't work. She said, "Mr. Digby? You mean I can go into space?" I looked over my shoulder. I was nearly a mile away, but there was nothing between me and the Possibility building. It still filled most of the sky. I was standing in its shadow. "You do know, of course, what those letters say?" Dr. Drax pointed at the huge black Chinese letters on the side. "No. They are the slogan of Infinity Park. They say, 'The world is my thrill ride.' But that's what you said to me on the phone that day. That's why I specifically selected you. It seems to sum up everything I was trying to say. You know, Mr. Digby, I always knew you'd be the one who'd go into space in the end. You remind me very much of my own father. You have the same quality, a sort of childlike quality. I could hear the other children talking and laughing behind her. I could feel the cool shadow of the rocket on my back. Was it different if I were going too? Was it right to send my daughter to space if I was going with her? All I had to do was say, thank you, and I'd be riding the rocket. I took a deep breath and I said, Dr. Drax, I know you think I'm a responsible adult, but I'm not. I'm just a boy, an unusually tall, hairy boy, but just a boy. I felt a bit better straight away, like gravity had somehow decreased, and I was sort of floating. There. It was all over. No more pretending, no more responsibility. I didn't care what she had to say now. Dr. Drax just smiled. She touched my hand. She said, that's exactly what I mean about you. You have the right quality. You feel like a child inside. So did Einstein all his life. He said he never stopped thinking like a child. And that is why he made such wonderful discoveries. No, I mean, I feel like a child. I mean, I'm not really grown up at all. Perfect. Exactly. Anyone who feels that they're grown up is no use to this project. It's the people who feel they've got nothing left to learn. Exactly. I haven't even finished school. I've hardly even started. I feel the same way. The universe is so huge, we've barely glimpsed it. Give me someone who knows they know nothing over someone who thinks they know everything any day. But by the way you take care of Hassan, make sure you take very good care of him. It's a hard time for him. He'll be disappointed his father isn't going, and upset because obviously I'm suing Mr. Xanadu for every penny he's got. Oh, really? Yes, I'm determined to put him in jail for what he did. Right. Anything else you wanted to say? I thought it probably wasn't the best moment to tell her I'd been lying for weeks, or that I'd tricked her into putting me, age 12 and a bit, in charge of a rocket costing $1 billion. In fact, she said, can you sign this while you're here? It's a release form giving me permission to use your wonderful phrase, the world is my thrill ride, on all our publicity. Just there, thank you. And it only remains for me to say, enjoy the ride. The next chapter that I'll be sharing with you is called The Real Thing. As we went into the crew quarters, Dr. Drax said it was nice that I was going to see my daughter on this particular day. I wasn't sure what she meant. When I got inside the house, it was full of balloons and piles of crumpled up gift wrapping. Florida shouted, "Hi, Daddy! Where's my present?" I said, "What present?" "Oh, stop teasing," said Florida, grinning at everyone. "He always remembers my birthday, really." It was Florida's birthday. How was I supposed to know that? How did everyone else know? Dr. Drax told everyone. She knew because it was on the forms. "Look at what Mr. Xanadu got me." It was a doll, like a Barbie, but it wasn't a Barbie. It was Florida in her blue Power Ranger spacesuit. It really did look like her, but like she'd been miniaturized by a wicked super mage. "How cool is that?" smiled Florida. I knew right away what it was. It was a prototype of one of the Astro Kid dolls. "When did you get that for Florida, Mr. Digby?" "Oh, what did you get for Florida, Mr. Digby?" "We've been hearing about the time you bought her a pony." "Oh, really?" "Also, about all the great party games you play." "Will you show us a card trick?" said the Samson 2. "They interest me, psychologically speaking. Maybe later. Just now I'm going to give Florida her present, in private." We went into the kitchen. I said, "Why didn't you tell me it's your birthday?" "You're supposed to know. You are my dad, you know." "I am not your dad. I'm only pretending. Remember?" "Are you saying you haven't got me a present?" "I'm going to give you a birthday treat. This is it. I'm going to save your life." I told her everything, and all the stuff about this being a secret mission and Shenzhen having the measles. Florida said, "Ken Mattingly." "What?" "Ken Mattingly was supposed to go on Apollo 13, but he pulled out at the last minute, just like Shenzhen, because of German measles. And after that, everything went wrong, and they all nearly died. He suffered terrible guilt feelings for the rest of his life. My Apollo 13 guilt hell." "That's it, exactly. They were in terrible danger, and we're in terrible danger. We've got to get you out of here. You thought it was bad when I nearly drove a Porsche. A Porsche goes 170 miles an hour. Do you have any idea how fast the infinite possibility goes? We are in deep trouble. You're my dad. Get me out of it." No, that's just it. I'm not your dad. I can't do card tricks. I didn't get you a pony. I don't call you little princess, but ring your real dad. What for? We're in trouble. He can get us out of it. He's a dad. That's what he's for. I was thinking how simple it all was. Florida would ring her dad. He'd probably go nuts, but from then on, I'd no longer be in charge. Wouldn't have to be the grown-up anymore. Florida said her dad was too busy and I should ring my dad instead. I said that wouldn't work. Besides, what can my dad do? He never goes anywhere. Your dad knows all about these things. He could be here in minutes. No one can get to China in minutes, Liam. He's not Superman. No, but he's your dad. He won't want his little princess blasting off in a space rocket, will he? Especially when he finds out that the only person who knows anything about flying rockets isn't coming, and so-called responsible adult is 12 years old. I gave her my direct phone. I told her to call now, before it's too late. She fiddled quietly with the phone for a bit, and then she said, Liam, I haven't got a dad. I didn't understand. What she said made no sense. What do you mean? I mean, I haven't got a dad. It's just me, Mum, Orlando and Ibiza. But your dad travels the world. That's why he named you after such faraway places. We never go anywhere. My dad left after Orlando was born. I don't know where he is. He had a big row with Mum and never came back. Even when he is there, or was there, he never did any of the things that I said he did. You know, taking pictures, buying ponies, nothing. He just used to sit and watch the Holiday Channel. That's where he got our names from. This was unexpected. I said, okay, well, if you had a dad now, he would not let you sit on top of a 200 feet inflammable fuel tower. He would want you to be sent up into the air at thousands of miles an hour. He would be very, very concerned at the thought of you experiencing 40G. He would be worried if you went on a big ride. And this is not a ride. The point is, this is not a ride. This is the real thing. Florida looked a bit surprised. But Liam, if I got famous, my dad, wherever he is, he'd see me, wouldn't he? And then he'd come back and find me, or at least he'd want to know about me. He'd go around telling people he was my dad. He'd be proud of me. And that's why I want to be famous. That's why I want to go away in this rocket. I wasn't sure what to say. I think I was probably quiet for a while, because in the end she said, Liam, have you fallen asleep? No, I'm just thinking. I realised I was all the dad Florida had. It was time to do exactly the right thing. The dadly thing, and give her exactly what she wanted, what we both wanted. It was one of those cardboard party hats on the table, the pointy kind with tinsel on top. I found a pair of scissors in the kitchen drawer and started cutting it. What are you doing? When I finished, I held it up for her to see. I'd cut it into a kind of crown. It was a bit rubbish, but it was still a crown. I thought it'd be easier to say this if you were actually dressed for the part. I put it on her head and said, Happy birthday, princess. She grinned and said, You've still got to get me a proper present. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll take you to space. We went back to the others, and there they were, standing around eating cake. I said, All right, let's get this party going. They all looked blank. They didn't really know any party games. I made them play Grandmother's Footsteps, musical statues, and a game called Fish, where everyone has a fish-shaped piece of paper and you race them by blowing. This went on for ages because Samson too developed a streamlined fish, which Hassan tried to buy off of him. Max blew so hard, he more or less asphyxiated himself. And as it happens, I do know some card tricks. Dad used to teach me them when I went out in the back of his cab. The other kids were amazed and amused. Florida said it was the best birthday she ever had. We'd like to thank Macmillan for allowing us to share this book with you, and I really look forward to seeing the continuation of Liam and Florida's adventure tomorrow.